What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Derek, and in today's video we are taking a look at the ultimate webcam. You might be like, Derek, according to all the other YouTube videos out there that I've seen, the ultimate webcam has been released like 500 times. You're not wrong, but this one is actually pretty special in my opinion. I've been using it for a little while now, a couple weeks, and I gotta be honest, I'm loving it, and I'm excited to add it to my personal kit, and I can promise you guys I will be using it in my personal kit going forward when I'm recording any of my videos, whether that's me live streaming, whether that's me creating YouTube videos like this, whatever the case may be, this is 100% going to be a tool in my arsenal going forward. And that is the OBSBOT Tail Air. Now, I'm sure you've seen this camera around a little bit before. Originally, when they came out a couple years ago, they were really marketed towards live streamers, especially live streamers on Twitch and stuff. And they were cool. It was cool. They had some AI built into them, but they were far from perfect. There was quite a couple issues with them. Number one being the image quality wasn't that great. It did not have, like it does now, like this is basically like a full camera lens on this thing, whereas the original version really didn't have that. It was more of like a webcam type camera built into it. The AI was kind of hit or miss. It had a hard time tracking you at times, things like that. And just overall, it just wasn't quite good enough to like replace a, cheap mirrorless DSLR camera, but it also wasn't cheap enough to replace a webcam that was like high quality. So it was kind of in this weird middle space. But I'm gonna say right off the bat that OBSBOT fixed this time around with the Tail Air. So the Tail Air is their newest version of the OBSBOT. They have a couple different versions now. First generation, they have a smaller one. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. Maybe the editor can throw it on the screen somewhere here, there, anywhere. They have a smaller version of it. They also came out with like an action cam, I believe. But then they also have this, which is the latest flagship. Again, the OBSBOT Tail Air. So this thing has a lot of cool features, and we're gonna dive into that today. But first, let me go ahead and stick it back up here where it goes so that you guys can see me on it. First things first, before we jump into anything else, let's go ahead and run through the specs. If you're new to this channel, I'm not big on specs. You can type in Google, hey, here's some specs, and boom, you'll get the specs and you'll be good to go. The image sensor, so the sensor in the camera itself is a 1.8 inch CMOS sensor. It has 8 optical lenses built inside of it. It has a 4x digital zoom. It does not have any type of optical zoom. That 8 optical lenses is not an optical zoom. It does an ISO range of 100 to 6400. Personally, in most cameras, I don't ever go above 3200 when I'm doing these types of recordings. Even the Canon M200 that I'm using here, my main crisp camera, I don't typically go over 3200 ISO if I'm cranking it up. I just always found that's when you start really starting to see some noise in images. But it does go up to 6400 if you need it to. An exposure value of plus or minus 3. You can expose it up or down 3 stops. It has an electronic shutter speed, which can do 1/8,000th of a second. It also has autofocus as well as manual focus. You can set the focus manually if you want it, if you want to make sure it's not jumping and changing focus and that kind of stuff. It has an aperture of a f1.8. This is one of the reasons why it is so much better in image quality, especially in low light, is that this new lens is a 1.8 aperture, which is really good. That means the aperture is nice and big so that the lens can gather in a heck of a lot of light when it needs to in low light situation. Obviously, if you're using studio lights and stuff like I am, that's not really an issue, but it's still nice for if you do want to use it in low light. For example, I can pick this sucker up here because we'll get into it, but it is wireless and does have a battery built into it, and it is capturing me wirelessly to OBS right now. But I can set it over here, and sometimes me and my son, we will over here be playing the Nintendo Switch on the projector, and all of the overhead lights will be off. I won't have any studio lights on. There'll just be a couple accent lights turned on and stuff, and we'll be playing the Switch, playing Mario, whatever, recording, and it's just really nice that it can do that. Like, it can come over here. Is this doing I realized it wasn't tracking me. I had to turn on the tracking real quick because I'm not in front of those cameras right now. But anyways, it works really, really well in low light. So really, really dope. Again, I know, really cool though also that it's wireless and has a battery built into it and all that, but we'll get into some more of that as we go. In terms of shooting, the video resolution, it does 4K at 30 FPS, 25 FPS, or 24 FPS, and it does 1080p at 60 FPS, 50 FPS, 48, 30, 25, or 24. It can do that with a bit rate of 100 megabytes per second at H.264 codec, and 80 megabytes per second on the H.265 codec, and it can record in H.264, H.265, or MJPEG format. So it operates on 2.4 gigahertz or 5.8 gigahertz frequencies. It can do 2.4, 5.1, 5.8. Operates in all of those bands, which is cool because if you are using this wirelessly for video, you're probably going to want to connect to like the 5 gigahertz stream to make sure, you know, that you're getting a nice high speed wirelessly. It has 2 built-in microphones. The previous microphones on the devices were not great, and these ones are not much better. I would say they're a little bit better, and they do have noise reduction and stuff built into it now. However, personally, I would still use external audio and capture external audio using a better mic. The one nice thing is this thing has every jack you could possibly need, and one of those jacks happens to be 3.5 millimeter aux connector that you can connect a microphone to, record with an external mic. Whether you're using like a lavalier mic like this, I could connect the receiver into the OBSBOT or whatever, you know, you're using an actual wired one that's plugged in, like some people do on TikTok with that little tiny lapel that they hold up. You can do that as well. That's not like scat man. I'm a scat man. So it also has Bluetooth built into it. Like I said, it has Wi-Fi, USB 2.0. Charging time, it takes 90 minutes, it says, when it's turned off. Operating time's 154 minutes, so that's recording 1080p 30 FPS video. At 4K 30, I would say you'd get about an hour of recording out of it. And at 1080p 60 FPS, I would say you probably get like 90 minutes, so like an hour and a half recording time, at least from my test. It does have a 1500 milliamp battery, and it does have some AI built into it. It takes a micro SD card up to 512 gigabytes, and that's kind of the spec. So we went through those, yada yada, bing bang, boom. Now let's actually just talk about this camera. So number one, the quality is so much better than any previous versions they had. I mean, the 4K looks like 4K, it looks good, even in low light situations with that 1.8 aperture. I will say again, because there's no optical zoom, obviously the closer you have the camera to you, the better it's gonna look, because as it's further away and then you have it zooming in on you for whatever reason, it's using digital zoom, so it's gonna degrade. Example of this would be, maybe we can put on screen right now, if one of my editors can do it. I actually used it to record Christmas morning with my son and him opening up Christmas presents, and I had the device probably a good 20 to 25 feet away from where we were at, so it was pretty much zoomed all the way in at the 4x digital zoom, and it definitely looked a little noisy, especially because in my living room we just have like a ceiling fan with 3 little lights and a little light over in the other corner, so it definitely had a little bit of noise. But something like right now where I'm using just 2 little studio lights that are not turned up very bright, by the way. I do have overhead lights on, but they're not very bright either. But something like that, like this image, now we can put up an image of this bad boy. It looks good, does it not? Like this thing looks clean. It looks fantastic. 4K, 30 FPS, what you're seeing, it's beautiful. Image quality has improved tremendously. The fact that it is wireless, has a battery built into it, can be used wirelessly, both to record on the SD card, but also even as a virtual camera inside of OBS or something, or RTMP mode, or even live streaming directly to a service like Twitch or YouTube. All of that can be done wirelessly without this thing plugged in. And if you're using it like that and you're not actually recording to the SD card, like I said, at 4K 30 FPS, you might get an hour of recording time. When you're not recording to the SD card, you actually get quite a bit more power out of it. I've used it with it on 4K 30 FPS, sitting with my son over on the couch, like I said, us playing some of the Nintendo Switch. I've had it run for 2 hours and still have some battery left. And again, that's where it was being captured as a virtual cam inside of OBS and not recording directly to the SD card. But the fact that you have so many different ways to connect and use this camera is what makes this thing sweet. So again, you can use it wirelessly, has Wi-Fi 2.4, 5 gigahertz. It also has a USB-C connector on it. So meaning USB-C, you can connect it directly to your computer and you can use it as like a webcam, for example. And then it also has a micro HDMI, which means you can plug a micro HDMI cable into a normal HDMI cable into something like a Elgato Cam Link, or like this is a generic version, a cheap version of one of those. There we go. One of these bad boys that lets you plug it in. So there's plenty of different ways. And then on top of that, you can use this thing as a webcam. You can turn on a setting. So let me go ahead and go to the phone. We're inside the software now. So we can go into here and we can go to the output and you can see UVC mode. that is the mode. You will check that if you have it plugged in with a USB cable and you want to use it as a webcam. It also has NDI, which means you can use it over your network as an NDI device and capture it. You do have to buy an NDI license from OBSBOT, which I think is $99, but nonetheless, you can if you want to use it for NDI, which is also really cool. It also has RTSP mode, which is you can do it like an RTSP server basically. So you can also change all the frame rates, the encoders, the bit rate, the resolution, all of that for each individual one, whether that's for recording, RTSP, HDMI, etc., etc. So you can do all that right here inside of the actual app on the computer. So again, you just have a ton of different ways to connect this thing, record from this thing, capture video from this thing, and use this thing, which is really, really dope. And that's why I said it's kind of like a webcam, but also a full-featured camera all built into one package, as well as a gimbal and everything built into it. So it's a PTZ camera, which stands for pan, tilt, and zoom. That's the type of camera it is. So this thing does have AI where it will track you. You can change things like the tracking speed, so whether it tracks you slow, standard, or fast. You can also change how it tracks you. It can track you at a wide angle, it can track you at just upper body, or it can track you close up, so just like shoulder shot, you know, headshot basically. And it can follow you around as you do that automatically. And the other cool thing is that you can do a lot of this with gesture controls. So for example, right now it's not following me. So if I want it to start following me, I can either double tap on my mobile screen on me, the subject, and boom, it is now tracking me. As you can see, I can move over here. I can move over here. And by the way, this thing works great, except for there was one issue I had with it, which I'll explain in a minute. So if we double tap, now it is no longer tracking me. But now if I don't have my phone on me, let's say, you know, I've set this device up, I'm using it, I don't want to pull up the app or whatever, I can simply hold up my hand like this. The light will blink to let me know that it registered the gesture. And now once again, it is tracking me just from that gesture. And I can again, hold this up. It'll give me a sign that it's doing it, and boom. On top of that, I can hold up an L and it'll have it zoom in on me. And I can hold up the L again and it'll have it zoom back out. And then also what I can do if I want more control over the zoom, I can actually hold up both like this and I can zoom myself however much I want to. On the phone again, as I said, so there is full body, which let me just stand up here just to give you guys an example on this thing here. So we have full body, which we're on. You can see it's tracking my full body right now. I can then hit it and I can change to half body. So now it's tracking just my upper half of my body, as you can see. I can move around still, just like I was. And then it also has this close-up feature, which is just tracking kind of my head and stuff. So, you know, shoulder, you know, kind of mid chest up or whatever. And you have these different options. And then you also just have wide, which is just basically like the camera's wide open. So it's giving me, you know, the most zoomed out image that the camera can do, but still tracking. Also on the mobile app, you have this director mode, which is kind of cool. So you can set 3 presets. You can see here, preset 1, preset 2, preset 3. You can set these presets at different spots. You can have, like, you can move the camera wherever you want it in your room. And then in this director mode, you have, as you can see here, there's now P1, P2, and P3 added from when I just pulled it up a second ago. But you have wide, auto, you have close up, half body, full body. So very quickly from this mode, instead of that little drop down list, you can switch to close up, you can switch to half body, you can switch to the wide angle. Whatever you want to do, you can do all of that automatically right through that little director mode, which is really cool. Now again, the only issue I had with it, or the time I had an issue with it, was when I used it with me and my son over there. With my son, if he would cross paths with me or I would cross paths with him, whenever we would kind of cross paths, it would lose the subject, but not only would it lose the subject, but then it would do this weird thing where the camera would flip completely up to the ceiling and look at the ceiling. And then it would just be stuck on the ceiling because now it can no longer find the person like it did when I walked out of the room and walked back in. It's like you literally had to go into the app and actually manually control, which by the way, you can do. But anytime I use this thing when it's just me, it tracks phenomenal. So just FYI, but I did have that little hiccup with it and thought it was worth mentioning. And on the computer, you can see here, again, we have, this is the software for it. You have, so you can hit here to show a preview. Preview cannot be opened. There it is. It was on my phone still for a minute. So you can have the preview up on your computer. For some reason, I've seen some videos where people said like they do this and then they capture this window to put it into OBS. Do not do that. I don't know why they would do that. This is simply for you to kind of set up the camera. Once you have it good to go, close out of it. It takes up system resources. You don't need it. Power button, you can turn this bad boy on and off wirelessly. Even if it's off, you can turn it on remotely. But right here we have virtual camera. So virtual camera is what you would hit to then be able to bring it inside of OBS. And you can bring it into OBS just like you would any other webcam. And you can also do all of this stuff while still recording on the device directly to the SD card, which is really cool. So that whole time as I turned on that, it's still recording on the SD card while I'm doing that, which is really, really cool. Again, they have some beauty stuff so you can add background blur. I don't think this is on the actual phone. You can't do this on the phone. And in order to do it on the PC, as you can see here, you do have to install the NVIDIA Video Effects SDK. So that's the NVIDIA software kit that they came out with that'll do like the AI blur of the background. And that's basically it. So again, I mean, it is a really great camera. I think it looks great. It has a lot of cool features. It's definitely an upgrade from all the previous versions. I'm really enjoying the thing. I am 100% going to be using this in my kit. And I would say, so I'm using the Canon M200 as my main camera for when I'm live streaming stuff. It's the camera I've been using for years. I think it cost like $550 when I bought it. And so if I had to decide out of one, I would probably choose the OBSBOT, unless I was getting like a much nicer camera, like a nice DSLR mirrorless camera, you know, a couple grand body with some really nice glass or whatever. Because this thing is really cool for 500 bucks. Again, if you're just looking for like a webcam, if that's your budget, this is probably gonna be out of that, unfortunately. But if you're kind of looking for that thing in between a webcam, high-priced mirrorless DSLR camera, like, you know, something that's really high quality, and like a device like this, I mean, this thing's pretty cool. Does it look as good as the Canon M200? I don't know. You tell me. You tell me. Am I gonna switch out my Canon M200 with this device? Probably not, because I have a Canon M200. If I was using a webcam, I definitely would. Like, for example, I'm using a Logitech C920 here, and I'm using a Logitech C920 here as different angles. It will definitely be replacing that camera up there. I will still be keeping one for a close-up angle from the side here, but it will 100% be going on the stand over there. So it will 100% be replacing the webcam up on that pole, because I think it'll be great up there and it'll give me just another angle that's very high quality. So I'm super excited to have it in my kit. I'm super excited to use it in my kit. I think it's a great device. Oh, and I didn't even mention also, they have this device. It comes separately, you gotta buy it, but it has Ethernet, and you can plug this into the camera and plug Ethernet, power over Ethernet into it. And then you can have it just on your network and you connect to it from your computer over your network, wired instead of wirelessly. So it even has things like that. I mean, this camera really can like do it all. I mean, it's a really neat camera. It's a lot of features packed into it for $500. I've heard a lot of people say like, oh, you know, that's expensive for a webcam. I don't really see this thing as a webcam. I mean, this thing is a full-featured camera minus an optical zoom. With that said, that's my kind of review of the OBSBOT Tail Air. I love the device. It is 100% going to be a part of my kit now. I will use this thing up there on that thing. I will use this thing outdoors when I go. I see me using this thing all over the place. It comes with like a nice carrying case too. So, I mean, you can literally, I'm dropping stuff, have it charged up, stick it in this nice carrying case. It's small, take it with you, whatever. I can see it being used as a vlog camera. That's all for this review. If you guys liked it, don't forget to hit that like button down below. If you're looking to buy this, you know, one of these cameras or take a look at them a little closer, I'll leave a link down in the description for you guys. Subscribe to the channel for more tech videos, more vlogs, more gaming videos. That's what I do around here, tech type stuff. Say what's up in the comments below. All right, until next time, love your faces. See you guys on the next one. Until then, peace out, everybody. Later, nerds.